Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Committee of the Whole meeting for May 2022. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. Adoption of the agenda. Adopt the agenda as presented or amended. Can I have a mover, please? Moved by Councillor Garvey, second by Councillor Hunt. Any additions? Not seeing any. All in favor? That is carried. Okay, management reports, public works report, Rick.
Okay, so it's been a while since I've been here, and as everybody knows, like from Christmas till now, it's been a relentless year. We've had the snow, the wind, cold temperatures. We were down a grader for our last few cleanings, but we managed to keep everything together and get it done. We went right from there to opening ditches, which we basically finished. And then we had another storm, blew everything back in. We opened some more ditches than we've ever opened in previous years. We've opened some of them 3 times just to keep water going. And we went right from there to steaming culverts and pumping water, which we're still pumping at overwaters, the river being as high as it is. That tractor and pump will be set up there for a while yet, but that is the only pump we have going at this time. At one point we had both tractors pumping. We had our 6-inch pumping. We had some of our smaller ones going. We were running around the clock. We had a night shift going for a short time to keep pumps going. But we seem to have gotten through all that, other than the water we got here at overwaters yet, which we can't do much about with the height of the river. I imagine it's been tough on us, but I'm sure it's even tougher on our local farmers and whatnot, who are just waiting to get into the fields, and hopefully that can happen for them shortly. We've done a little bit of gravel hauling to some of our bad spots, and unfortunately, the way the winter was, our roads took a real beating. We have some real bad roads, especially in the north end, some real mud spots. We hauled what we could. I was glad that we did have stockpiles to haul from. We've almost used them up. We have a little bit left in the yard here yet, but we need some more 2-inch, which we use into the mud holes, which we can't get now until restrictions come off. We were doing a lot of patching. Starting today, we had 3 crews out patching all at the same time. So we'll get through that. And again, once restrictions are off, Wintec will be starting on all the roads they're going to be doing. Other than that, I think that we may have come into a little bit of extra money from the government. And I was wondering, maybe there's a few roads we could look at putting some layer of asphalt on, or at least some areas of those roads, such as Boyd Road, and the other one would be Settlers Trail. Those are 2 roads that again took a real beating this winter, and if there's a little bit of extra money, they would be 2 to look at for putting some asphalt on. We do have some of the shorter roads. I know Kristen had talked about a few times to wonder when we're going to get asphalt on them. So those we have a plan to do them with recycled asphalt. We're going to lay that on there and pack it in, and try that on a couple of the roads in the south end and a couple in the north end. I believe that's going to work out for us. Other than that, we're just working away as normal. All the graders are out grading roads, and like I say, there's 3 sets of guys out patching roads. So we're doing the best we can. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Councillors, do you have any questions for Rick? Councillor Hunt.
I guess more of a comment. I guess you talk about those 2 roads that would need an overlay, Boyd and Settlers Trail. I remember about 5 or 6 years ago, we had the same thing on Hall Road happen, where the layer of seal coat come off. And if nothing is done with those roads, we'll lose the infrastructure, right? And that's something we try to prevent, is losing that infrastructure. Like I've always said, let's try to get the most life out of some roads if we're going to be redoing the infrastructure. But these 2 roads in particular, if they don't get a layer on them, we're going to lose that sub base, and then basically you're starting at square one again. Correct, I guess?
That's correct, Laurie.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
You know,
I think it
so-
was. I think
So
it
what's
was
the- what is the-
mentioned, I think,
What is
sorry,
the, what, so,
I think it
Go
was
ahead, Jim.
mentioned that a while ago that every dollar you put into prevention saves you $6 down the road. So I think that's probably something that's good. Sorry to interrupt you, Laurie.
yeah, so like I say, so the sub base, it's got the seal coat on top of it, and you've lost that 1/2 inch now, or whatever those 2 layers of seal coat have been on there. But now it gets into the sub base, and then it'll get soft, and then it's got to be, the whole thing will have to be torn up and repacked, and then you're starting from scratch again. But right now we have a base that's been there for many years, and you just put the layer of asphalt on it. So like probably 8 or 10 years ago, probably they had to do that on Hall Road, the 2 miles of it. Like I say, the whole seal coat just lifted off with that type of season that it was. And they laid the asphalt back on, and it's still basically perfect, actually, other than doing the crack sealing on it during the crack sealing times. So what would be the process in that? Getting some prices, I guess, from our contractor that has the work this year, and see what, I believe 50 mils probably is what they would put on, which would be 2 inches. And again, if you don't do it, you're probably looking at probably 3 to 4 inches, 75 to 100 mils, if you redo the base and pack it, then, because then you need that extra thickness of asphalt then, to take up for the compaction that you're going to be losing if we lose the infrastructure. So
DJ.
Yeah, we just have to wait a little bit longer. We haven't had any confirmation from the province yet about this extra fund of money that's coming towards us for potholes and all these repairs. I think it's going to be around 100,000 or 100 plus, but once we know it, I guess we'll be in a ready position to move forward. If council likes to look at those particular roads, we can start costing those out.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Hunt, please continue.
but like even though like that's going to be a necessity for those roads, like I say, because if we don't do anything with them, it's going to cost us 2 to 3 times as much to do the base work, to redo the base work on them. So if, like I say, I think maybe still move forward with getting a price on it, and then if that money does come through, or we're going to have to take from reserves from road or something anyway. So either way, it's got to be done. So I think anyway.
Deputy Mayor Hobie, you have any comments, questions for Rick?
Yes, thank you. Rick, I just wanted to say thank you. I know what this last month has been like, and I think it was 3 weekends ago, 3 or 4 now. I was talking to DJ about calls that I have been getting in the south here, and there was plenty. And I know you had about 80 different calls that weekend. So I just wanted to send out a thank you for all that you guys did. I know that this month was really, really hard, and it continues to be hard. And what a weird weather we're getting this year. And so thank you again. I mean, 80 calls is a lot in one day. And I couldn't even imagine. I mean, I know how much my phone rang, so I can't even imagine what it was like for you. So just kudos to you and your team.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Prychin?
No, thanks, Rick. I had some issues, and whatever came up, I had messaged you and texted you and emailed or sent it into the tracker, and the response was immediate, whether it was 6 o'clock in the morning or 11 o'clock at night. So you're just a total gem to this RM, and the day you're gone, boy, we're going to be in major trouble. So keep it up, and try and find someone you can train and put under your wing, because we're going to need them one day. And thank you for everything.
Thank you, Matthew.
Councillor Garvey, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm still here. I
Okay.
don't have any questions for Rick, but I also want to express my appreciation. He was out there tirelessly in all areas, and I encountered him a few times in my ward. So thank you, Rick.
You're welcome, Russ.
Okay, and I echo those sentiments that have been spoken. Good job, Rick, and your crew. Okay, anything further for Councillor Hunt?
Rick, we had a lot of problems with stubble, like straw coming off the fields this year, and that I've got a couple in front. You probably have some too in that. I don't know whether we I guess we're gonna have to maybe burn some of that stuff or haul it away come summertime and that. But some of that stuff, the mower might mulch up too when we start cutting the drains and that, like we start cutting ditches and that.
Yes, there'll be a lot of it. The mowers will be able to chop up. And you're right, some of it we may be able to burn. Some we have cleaned up already where it was plugging up culverts. Some of the main drains, we sat there with a hoe piling it, and then we hauled virtually probably 5-6 semi-loads away from that one spot. There's so much all over, but as the summer goes on, we'll deal with it.
Right, yeah. And like I say, also, thank you. I know up until last week, whatever, we still had, major snowbanks and on headlands, not some snowbanks, 8, 10 feet, 12 feet high in some of the headlands and that. I think it's all gone now, but it was sure, like you say, it sure was an amazing spring with dealing with flooding up south and 25 miles away. We got a blizzard going on. So,
yeah.
But thank you for everything. Yeah.
Our worst spot that we had, I believe, would have been on Schmidt Road by Howard Buffy's there, where the creek came over top, and it cut a new trench through the road for it to run in. Plus, it took the top of the road was gone. That particular spot will be up and running by 6 or 7 o'clock tonight and back open and back in perfect shape. So that's our first one will be done.
DJ, do you have any comments?
Nothing that hasn't been said. I'm greatly appreciative to the whole team, though. They did an amazing job.
Okay, thank you, DJ. Thank you very much for your presentation, Rick, and we look for your continued doing the best you can for the municipality. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of your evening.
Okay, thank you, everybody, and good evening.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to item 3.2, Environment Utilities Report. Mr. Hallweg.
Good evening, everyone. It's nice to see you all. Likewise, it's been a while since I reported to you. I've got a lot of things on the docket here to go through. I've got a bit of a 4x4 presentation, and embedded in that is the various documents that are in the agenda. So we can deal with them one-on-one. And if you have questions about each one, we can take them at that time and talk about the issues of the areas. So Tim, if you want to, I think you gave me control there. I'll just share my screen. You can.
And just as Ron's looking for a screen, like there's a lot of detail here, but a lot of this information is going to roll forward to the next council. So I feel really good about it, but you guys should know most of this stuff. It's really an update, and there's a number of reports still coming forward. So lots happening on the environmental front. Just because we have dead air. We got the report from Stantec and Water Services Board just, I think, on Thursday or Friday regarding the wastewater treatment options that we can look at. But Ron and I haven't crunched through that yet. We think there's probably a couple of things that need to be clarified in the report, and it should come to council in a couple of weeks. The report from the exchange group, I think, is probably a month or two away, but they do want to spend some time with council, the exchange group. They want to sit down and just have a conversation about what they've discovered and get council's impression so far, so they know how to move forward. And I think that'll be a lunch hour meeting. So they're just figuring out how to crunch all that data into one group. I think it's going to be similar to what we've seen with Recreation Master Plan and that process. Should I keep filling up space here, Rob?
Well, I seem to have trouble sharing my desktop. I get an error. Allow Zoom to share.
I mean, maybe Tim could share it and just you can say next slide.
Yeah, if you want to send it to me, Ron, just email it to me and I'll put it up on the screen.
Well, the other option is to do it off my laptop. So if you give me a moment, I'll disconnect from this computer and log in through my laptop.
Well, I guess while we're trying to fill air, I did read through those reports, man. Is there a lot of information, a lot of good things coming forward to that we've started, that next council is going to, inherit a good part of the process done, and they'll be able to move forward on a lot of those fronts. I think it's really, really good. I think that staff and administration have really pointed this municipality at things it needs in the right direction, and the new council will sure benefit by it.
Yeah, they sure will. And while we're waiting for Ron to come back on, I seen a Facebook post today from one of the hostile sites, or the hostile site, I guess, in the RM regarding council action, and an anonymous source is stating straight up false information about again, corruption, and about trying to get this stuff through without any engagement and trying to get it through the term, and I'm going to ask the good people out there on Facebook to call this person on that, right? I'm not sure, who he is. I'm not sure why he's not being transparent and putting his name out there. I'm not sure who he's hearing this information from, but if he's hearing this information, he should really say who that source is. I think it's the opposite of transparency, but the end result, and makes me, it bothers me a fair bit. The end result is he's trying to frustrate our efforts to improve our environment, to get more recycling, to divert more from our landfills, to engage properly with our citizens. And, you start off with what looks to be a straight out lie is really disappointing to me. It's a new low. And again, the good people of Facebook, that's the best way to combat these kind of things is call the person out on that page. I'm not going to go on it, certainly.
Yes, frustrating for sure. We haven't got Ron back yet. Well, on the good news front is we were out burning some of that straw and trash that Rick was talking about, and you were talking about, Councillor Hunt. Some of it is too wet to burn, but what is burning well. And the good thing about it is the fire can't go anywhere this year, so it'll be burning is if you need to burn, this is the year to do it.
Yeah, just watch that smoke, but I'm certainly there's not going to be a lot of grass fires this year.
Yeah. Okay, Ron, we do have your presentation.
All right, I'm back.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so if we can get going, that's all right.
Yeah, please go ahead.
All right, so 4x4 because of the items to talk about, what's been done, what we're working on, and things I'd like to get work on, but are for the future. So the first quarter review. So we or council approved the asset management policy earlier in February, so that was accomplished. On the flood protection, if you recall that we received the final report in February or March of this year, and completed the action items that were in that report as far as notifying residents that were at high risk, and we sent those 9 residences registered letters, just indicating they were at high risk of flooding, given a 2-year flood prediction that was in the study. And then subsequently followed up and sent just regular letters to 60 residents, identifying the same thing, that they were either low to mid-high risk of flooding. And subsequent to that, I received about 13 callbacks from residents just requesting more information. So, if more people in the future want to give me a call, then certainly I can give them some of the modeling survey data and what the level of risk there is if it should a situation occur there with the ice jamming in their particular residence. So that was completed. Also, I submitted a report on the SWANA conference that Councillors Hunt and Garvey attended, as well as myself and DJ Sigmundson. That was very informative conference. They have a bit of a trade show, so we looked at a couple of most interest there was the recycling bins that they had there, and we were able to compare a couple, as well as take in a number of presentations from various groups on, what different provinces and municipalities, cities are doing with respect to recycling, composting, and garbage collection. Also attended a day-long tour and visited many different sites with in Calgary, where they their Shepherd landfill, where they have a solar powered station there. They've got a indoor composting facility. Like, these are things that the RM would never do, but it's interesting, what the cities are doing. And they've diverted, since they started composting, about 50% of their garbage now is being diverted to compost and recycling. So it was a big turnaround for the city of Calgary there. So it was great learning about that kind of stuff. So I don't know if anybody had a chance to read the or had any questions about the conference report.
Does anybody have any questions for Ron?
It was great, Ron. I went through it and I couldn't make the convention because of some family stuff going on, but yeah, it was great. I went to the one last year with Lori and you and I, and it was just such a great, it's such a great conference. So the report was really great. So thank you.
Yeah. All right. Good. We'll move along. Also, some of the things we just received I'm waiting for the final report, but I submitted the draft final report for you to read. There won't be much changes there. I think the Village of Denauder was just waiting for some final documents or numbers to throw in that, but the report is there. I also have the summary report on this study. If I could open that. No, where is it? It's not it. I'm still seeing my screen.
Yeah, we're still seeing your screen.
Okay. So this, I prepared a summary report of the waste energy feasibility study. So if you recall, in November of 2020, council approved being part of this group with the RM of Rockwood, St. Andrews, Town of Stonewall, and Village of Denauder to look at a different option for how to deal with garbage and recycling and composting. It's basically taking all of that waste and turning it into energy in the form of heat. It could be turned into electricity, but in Manitoba, it's not really feasible. So basically what this study concluded is it's technically feasible. Our garbage is compatible with the waste to energy sort of vendor, that innovation energy that basically vaporizes, whether it's plastic, garbage, organics, it vaporizes that and it produces heat. And that heat then can be used to heat facilities or other processes. So the next step in this would be to develop or just see the feasibility of a business case. And that's basically what the recommendation resolution is. And I guess that would go to the next council meeting to move forward in this study, to take it to that next level and just see it through to make sure that the business case is sound, and or develop a business case. I'm not sure what's all involved with that, but again, continue viewing or looking at that as a future option. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I don't know if anybody had any questions on that summary report.
Does anybody have any questions on the solid waste feasibility study?
Just a comment there. One of the interesting things is the financial feasibility of the study. As Ron says, this talks about the feasibility of the technology, but it came across as very expensive at first blush, a much higher number. So the consultants went back to work, and during the presentation that they gave in Denauder, or Matlock, they went through all the possible alternative sources of revenue that would not only make it more affordable than our current process, but eclipse it by a very large amount. And that's items like selling carbon credits and RARS levies and all sorts of things like that. So the next step we'll see when we get the decision paper to accept the report would be to study that further.
Any further comments? You don't hear on your own, so if you
Yeah,
want.
sorry.
I see.
Sorry. Yeah, thank you. I'm not sure, like, you're asking if we have any questions now on the waste to energy study and the study for the draft of the Donator milestone 4 report. Are you going to be discussing that later, Ron, or is that where you want me to ask questions now?
Well, now would be fine. I mean, I bring it up as it's also something that, I will work on in the future as well as we progress through this study, the next phase,
Okay.
if it takes place. So.
Right. I think it was page 62, but don't hold me to that. On the economic evaluation, so the capital cost was over 17 million. Do you know is there going to be a lot of grant funding available for that?
In the presentation that I attended April 29th, they mentioned like 8 or 9 different grant options. So there are several grants, and that would be part of the business cases to flesh out these grants, see what would be available, and get that number down to a more manageable number for the 4 municipalities to participate and fund a portion of that, certainly not.
Right,
majority.
so because it's shared 4 ways between Rockwood, Stonewall, St. Andrews as well, right?
Right.
So Donataris, I mean, their population is pretty small. So would they still be looking at like a 25% of that 17 less the grants?
I believe so, yes. Yeah.
Okay, and so I guess at this point, until you know more about the grants, we wouldn't know like about any tax.
Yeah, the consultant EcoWest presented several grant possibilities. So it would be a matter of going through that process and applying, and at the end of the day, say we get 3 out of 8 or 5 out of 8.
Right. Right. So until we find out, I guess, what kind of grants we could get, we really don't know what additional tax would be required by each municipality, right?
Right.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I
Any
just
other
want to pitch in
questions?
there. Yeah, just you can't see me. I'll just pitch in there. It could, the financial feasibility study will look at different ways of splitting costs as well, right? Our assessment is so much larger than Donator's. If they had to pay $100 a year for a debenture payment, we would only have to pay 10. So it's, we need to explore different options about how this does get to be affordable, and it does depend a lot on the grants and also other revenues. Maybe some of the revenues can even cover the capital costs, and that's why another study is recommended.
Okay, thanks, DJ. I was wondering how that would go because their population is so much smaller, right? So I was like 25%. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
thank you.
Yeah, this could be revenue generating as well, because we then have a commodity being heat that we would, sell off to, a potential company that would be on site there using it.
Yeah, and I saw too, I think it was like 50 people like in the beginning to get it started, and then it would have an employment level of 8 or something. So
that's really preliminary. So yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Any other questions? Not hearing anything, Ron, so you might as well continue.
All right, so current items, some of the things we're working on today. So before you is a revision to the nuisance grounds bylaw. It needs to be updated to honor the reduced hours agreed to in the custodian contracts. We're a bit behind the 8 ball because those reduced hours came into effect May 1st. So we're playing a bit of catch up here as well, just to look at the cost recovery for the Freon removal of the appliances. That's also included, and there is a policy on that requires the RM to have a cost recovery portion. So the tipping fees for any Freon containing appliance would have to increase to $20 per unit to cover the cost of taking the Freon out of those units when they come to the landfill. So I don't know if you want to spend time on either the revisions or the decision paper. If there's questions on that, I can certainly go answer them now.
Okay, just one comment, Ron. What about equipment that has already been taken? The Freon's been taken out and they're tagged. Is there still going to be a charge for them?
There's nothing that comes to us that is Freon removed already, and if it was, we wouldn't need to charge them, no.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for this? So the nuisance ground bylaw revision that will come to next council meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
So you've got the documents there, the division revisions. I took the existing bylaw and used track changes to highlight the changes that are being made.
Okay.
And then the decision paper there, request for decision, kind of explains the reasoning and rationale behind doing that, and highlights the various items that are being revised.
Okay. Council, do you have any questions for Ron?
Just a comment from me again, DJ. We would like to start promoting this, put it on our webpage, and tell the world that the hours have changed. We have had a few calls at the office from people not being aware of this change. So if I'm not hearing any objection to this, I think we'll start promoting this tomorrow and hopefully get the word out there.
Okay, Council, do you have any objections to going that route?
No, just a comment, John Laurie here, is when you talk about the hours changed, there was just there's one night a week, I think it's Wednesday at Earl Grey and Thursday at Clandeboye. It was open till 8 o'clock at night, both nights. So it's a reduction of 2 hours in that one day, which, you know, the custodians would have, you know, 2, 3, or 4 people coming in there in those 2 hours. So rather than an increase in salaries, a lot of it was just worked out. They got less hours and basically the same pay, which was also in addition to the, correct me if I'm wrong, they're wrong, but it was, I think, 3 or 4 more stat holidays that were added to it as well.
Yeah, there's
yeah.
4 or 5 stat holidays that they weren't getting that they will get now. It's, you know, I think the August long weekend and maybe September long weekend, and it could be Thanksgiving. There was 4 or 5 there, 4, I think for sure. So that then, and the reason, and that was embedded in the bylaw. So what I've done with this revision is I put those hours into the Schedule B, which then doesn't require opening up the bylaw. It would just need a council resolution to change Schedule B if there were future changes to hours. So that was done as part of this, taking the opportunity to move it into a schedule that didn't need opening the bylaw should further changes take place in the future. But yeah, so that was the big part of it is a follow up to that contract negotiation.
Okay, anything further?
Yeah, Ron, sorry, one more question. When I was reading the report, something else I noticed, and I'm thinking this is COVID related, but you would probably be better to tell me this. I noticed the increase from 2019 to 2020 was for the Earl Grey landfill went from 34,000 visits to 39,000 visits. So, and then it went down a little bit for 2021. So a couple thousand, I believe, 37,000. So do you feel this is just a kind of a blip on the radar and it's just COVID related? Like maybe everybody was home and cleaning up their yard?
Exactly, yeah, that's exactly the caretaker or custodians at the time indicated they were seeing more people because people were at home and not going to work. So they were taking and had an opportunity to maybe clean some house and do some spring cleaning in the middle of winter or whenever.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly. And it has gone up like each year I've noticed, with the exception of from 2021 to 2022, it went down just a couple thousand. But so it seems to be, we're definitely over that 35K a year visits and you know,
That's
pushing that 40. Yeah, I was really surprised actually when I read that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
well over 100 a day at each facility. So,
Yeah, for sure. Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Ron, you want to continue on?
all right.
Hang on,
So the big,
hang on, I got my hand up there. Sorry,
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
everything's cutting out here, chopping out, so I just shut the camera off. Ron or DJ, are we gonna do anything with the new passes? Like, every time I go to the dump, like I was there yesterday, for example, everybody pulls in, everybody's got their dump tag, and everybody, I think, relies on the thing like life support. So all of the dates and times and everything are on there. So if we're not gonna reprint brand new garbage passes, because I know we changed some hours and now there's contract changes, maybe we just print stickers. Maybe we print stickers that size and send them out to people, and people could just sticker them over top of the existing passes or send out new ones. Is that a possibility?
yeah, I mean, it's 6,000 new ones. So what we did, we just recently purchased more passes, but I had the hours changed on those. So the new ones, but we only bought like 500 for people that might want extras or have lost theirs. So they can buy those at the office or at the 2 waste disposal grounds for $10, I think. So, but we weren't, so there's pending things coming, right? So we've got this other study, the GRC study. One of the recommendations may be to implement that waste management, that software again.
Yeah,
where we
yeah.
could-
Well, yeah, we've
And
talked about
that would
that.
be the opportunity to change it if we needed a barcode on those permits to change them all. So it's kind of waiting to see at the end of June, these recommendations will come forward. But if council wants to change them all, we can certainly look towards doing that. But would need some direction on that.
Yeah, I just think a lot of people rely on them, and if people aren't on the website, they just load up their truck and trailer, they jump in the truck, they got their pass hanging in their visor, they take a look, yeah, it's open till 9 o'clock. I know me, myself, I got a truck and a trailer, I'd load up, I go there once or twice a year, and I got everything strapped up, and then if I got there and my pass at 8 o'clock and it closed at 5 o'clock, I wouldn't be too happy.
For the
Right?
month
So-
previous, we did have signage at the landfill and a note indicating the time change reference. And then DJ had alluded that we want to, I think, send out a connect notice tomorrow. Just people that are on connect, that they would get that, and we would update our website as well with that information. So yeah, the only thing that we wouldn't be doing is the hard copies that people have right now.
Yeah.
But if that's a cost that I didn't budget for this year, if it's something that council thinks would also be needed, I'm just saying, we may need to reissue them again in another year or so if there's other changes coming along.
Yeah, I guess it depends what happens with the software. Like I said, I know 2 years ago we discussed that software, and we've been going around and around what we're going to do with that. So that's what I thought we were waiting for with those new passes. But so I guess we'll see what happens with that then. Thanks, Ron.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, might as well move on.
All right. So the next one is spent a bit of time working on an environment report, kind of what's kind of happened over the last 4 years during council's term. Just a scan of the current status and a review of some of the relevant environment-related studies and reports that were conducted in the last 4 years. So it's quite a detailed summary report, but it's got a lot of good information in there that this council and the future council kind of get a sense of where the municipality is at with respect to the different environment, being air, land, and water. So with air, it's greenhouse gas emissions and climate change sort of things. So working towards being more resilient. The work that Public Works did, I think overall our infrastructure held up quite well during this year, but it's ensuring if there's shortfalls in some of the quality of the roads, certainly they won't last as long with the type of weather we're having these days with climate change. And it's to highlight that kind of stuff, to say we may need to build more resiliency into the roads in the future, having to reconstruct roads to make them last longer. So and also on the land part, that's all to do with solid waste, right? Our 2 landfills and what we're doing as far as the two options really. Do we go traditional garbage recycling and composting, or do we transition to a single stream of garbage where, well, everything other than glass and metal goes into this vaporizing unit that basically vaporizes everything that's organic, including plastics, in this case, would be considered organic, to turn that waste into energy in the form of heat. So this, I don't know if anybody's got any questions on that environment report. I would say there's still a couple of studies that are that we don't have the final reports yet. So this is a document that I'll continue to work on over the course of the summer and into the fall as we get these studies finalized, and writing a summary report on them, and having that as far as information that we can move forward with.
Anybody have any questions?
Ron, sorry, I read so many reports. I don't know which one this was in, but I think this was on this one. When you did talk about warranty issues for the South sewer system, can you tell me what that encompasses, please?
So some of the warranty issues, there's a few bugs on the corrosion. So the air compress, there's two systems that do corrosion control. One of them is using chemicals, which we are going to try to avoid, because it's a really expensive option to provide corrosion control. But we put this chemical pump in service to test it out because we didn't have our oxygen system running perfectly yet or at all. So we needed to keep our hydrogen sulfide levels down in the wastewater. So we turned the chemicals on and the pump failed. So we've got this pump. It's actually coming back in a couple of weeks, but we have another one. So we've got a chemical pump that failed. We've had some issues with getting the oxygen system working. So actually a contractor is heading down this week from the States to come back and do some further work. There were some parts that failed, so he'll be replacing those. And then the pumping, there was, with the pumps themselves, there was just fine tuning with how they, when they came on, for how long they come on. I'm just trying to optimize all of that stuff. And certainly because it's under warranty, we want to get the contractors involved as much as possible to, get this stuff working as best as it can. So
perfect. And were these all under all these, were they warranty issues? Like they were all covered under warranty?
Not everything. So we had a pump failure that was a result of a breaker failing, and this pump got water through the connector that was in the wet well, and the level got too high. So that pump, but we're looking at we've got an insurance claim for that part of it, so we'll be working with the insurance company on that one. But everything else so far hasn't been an extra cost to the RM because it's been under warranty. The big thing is I wanted to identify these items prior to warranty expiring, because once they're identified, then they should get them, even though the warranty might be expiring here soon. So
yeah, exactly. When you bring it up, when it's an issue, exactly. And there usually is, no matter what, whatever it is in life, usually that first year, whether it's an appliance or whatever, right? That's when you're going to find the bugs, right? So
I talk more about that in another slide or two, just on the wastewater stuff particularly, but it's been a good experience, particularly for Jason, to get involved in that kind of stuff, because you really learn about how the system works when there's problems with it. And there's not to say that there's a lot of problems, but there's glitches that we want to work through and make sure they're working 100%. So.
For sure, like a learning curve, for sure, Okay, thank you very much.
Ron, I got a couple of comments here. I guess one is when you talk about road building and saving greenhouse gases, am I to assume that you've taken that when we move to a asphalt road, that we're not going to be running graders up and down the road, grading and maintaining roads. Is that where the savings in the greenhouse gases would be?
No, I think the greenhouse gases, well, I mean, it's the greenhouse gas emissions for the municipality certainly is the methane that's being generated in our landfills. So that's methane is created when organic waste, like your typical or compost organics, gets buried into the landfill. It decomposes and gives off methane gas. The other greenhouse gas emitter, probably the bigger ones, is transportation related. So whether it's our heavy equipment or our fleet equipment, fire equipment, all that stuff. But right now there isn't an option to go and buy, an electric or hydrogen fueled grader, but these are things that down the road, hopefully in 10 years, 5 to 10 years, that when we're looking to replace this equipment in the future, we should be going to the green option that might be out there at the time. Today it isn't, but for greenhouse gas, it's more that. For the roads themselves, certainly a gravel road takes more maintenance, but I mean, the RM is never going to replace all the gravel roads in the municipality with paved roads. It's just not feasible to do that, certainly in the the rural areas. So they will always be gravel, but they're maintained, as best they can with the public works, the effort that they put in with the graveling program, the dust control program, and the grading that they do. The roads are holding up pretty good when there is severe weather.
And then I guess the other comment I had, can you quantify the amount of carbon that we will be reducing by going, incinerating our organics? Did they give you any sort of?
So it's not incineration, because incineration is burning and at a very low temperature. This is vaporizing it at 1,000 degrees Celsius using radiant heat. So there's no flame. It's radiant heat, but I think there's an equivalent carbon tons reduction in that report. I can just find it here. So it's 4,000. So we could potentially divert 6,480 tons of garbage or waste a year, and that would be a reduction of 4,457.38 equivalent metric tons of carbon dioxide. So they equated it to carbon dioxide and methane are greenhouse emitting greenhouse gas. That's what generates or creates greenhouse gases, methane and carbon dioxide. So you get the methane in the landfills and the carbon dioxide from the vehicles that are being driven around.
Okay, and that was just from what we contribute from this municipality, or was that from all?
This is all four.
Partners?
This is a total of all four, yeah.
Okay, good, thank you. Anyone else have any questions or comments for Ron on the environment report? Not hearing anything, Ron, so we want to continue on.
Right, the other thing we've been busy with is helping the exchange group and providing them data and information, and we meet with them, DJ and I, quite regularly on the study that they're doing. They've compiled the data and they've talked to neighboring municipalities to get industry best practices. And this is looking at the traditional, as many as 3 streams of waste. You've got your garbage, your recyclables, and the organic waste or the compostable materials. So they'll be providing an analysis of what this costs today. We've given them our costs over the last 10 years to do it the way we're doing it today with our roll-off bins and the landfills that we have. And they'll be presenting options and recommendations for this or future council to consider. Maybe moving to a different model with, the numbers that might support moving that because of the cost that, it's cheaper, would be cheaper than what we're doing today. And also more you'd see a higher, you just see a higher recycling rate if you make it easier for people to do that, right? So that's that study. I think the end of June is when that might be finished. So are available.
Okay, any questions for solid waste garbage recycling?
I'd just like to make a comment there, John. In addition to GJ's comments there about, lies and mistruths and that kind of stuff. But if you look at Ron's report, people that say that kind of stuff obviously don't care about the environment. But if you look at Ron's report on the, I think it was his, which one was it here? Anyway, on page 12 to 26, Ron, when you have the bar graph from St. Clements, when they initiated curbside pickup in 2016, 2017, they went from 280 metric tons a year up until now 2021, which is closing in on 700 metric tons, over doubled in curbside pickup from drop-offs in the recycling bins. So that comes at a great investment back in the wares and less hauling. Again, contributed to greenhouse gas. So if you look at if you go back to the report from the village of Donato, there was an excerpt in there about cost of recycling programs like Village of Donato, Rockwood, St. Andrews, and Stonewall. So Stonewall and Village of Donato both have curbside pickup. So they are like very minimal to do Village of Donato, only $30,000 a year. And their MMSM, which is the stewardship subsidy, is $21,000, only costing them $8,000 a year. So their recycling percentage is really high, as well as Stonewall is. And as far as ourselves, we're recycling. Our costs are probably twice as much as Rockwood, and yet our net cost a year is not much different. So we are recycling a fair bit now. You can just imagine how much it would be if we had the curbside pickup, and that'll all come in the from the information from the exchange group. And I've said many times, I'd be the first one to put up my hand to subsidize this program, because what it's costing the taxpayer at large to haul these bins of recycling goods to Winnipeg, and rather than being picked up. There is a lot of it going into the garbage, and also that the exchange group will come up with that, because we had the waste streams being collected at the landfills, and also some from the haulers. That was because the haulers don't do any recycling pickup, so just the garbage. So it's going to be interesting to see those numbers, because it sure has made a difference in St. Clements since they went with curbside pickup. So again, kudos for them for looking after the environment and in more ways than one. So thanks again, Ron.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you make it easier for people, they'll be more prone to doing it, right? Rather than if they're taking their garbage to the landfill, well, they may not want to make that extra stop, and everything goes over the hill. The other thing with collection, it wouldn't go to our landfill, so we'd be saving space in our landfills, and it would be certainly not 30,000+ visits a year if a portion or half of the community is getting it picked up and it's being taken to a different class 1 landfill instead of our own. So it would make ours last a lot longer. So there's a lot of spin-offs to going this route, and it'll be interesting to see what the study identifies.
One more thing there, Mr. Chair and Ron and DJ, you can add to this. I know when St. Clements did their report like 3 or 4 years ago, they also had a comparison of someone taking their garbage to the landfill once a week. And the car, I believe, was a small car, like a Honda Civic size, and what it was costing them a month for fuel, wear and tear on a car, was more in the long run than what they would cost for curbside pickup. And I can only imagine what those numbers would be now with, fuel hitting, upwards almost $10 a gallon. So, and then probably when those fuels when those comparisons were done, the fuel was probably half the cost.
Right.
So,
Yeah, and you know, the garbage collection or those collection vehicles will be, if not already, I mean, some of them are. I know the city of Winnipeg, that when they initially started privatizing their collection, it was Emterra, and they had propane or some other, you know, cleaner fuel vehicles. So
natural
these
gas,
things-
yeah.
natural
Yeah.
gas. So they're going to be transitioning to a greener fuel sooner than later. It's coming. All right. So the other thing I've spent you know, quite a bit of time on, working with our utility operator and myself, working with the consultants and contractors to address the warranty issues and optimizing our pump and odor and corrosion control systems so that they're, you know, working long enough so that there's enough air getting into the oxygen getting into the wastewater so that we don't have to use chemicals. And meeting our license, we have to have 1 milligram of hydrogen sulfide in solution in the wastewater, and that gets analyzed every other week. And we're monitoring that and making adjustments to make sure that we meet all of our service agreement limits with the city of Winnipeg and West St. Paul. So this is valuable operator experience that's being gained while working through these issues. We continued, this was the first year, I believe, that we, well, the first year that we were turned on. So this was the first year we continued doing turn-ons throughout the winter. And as of April 4th, we had almost 400 water meters installed. And there, as of April 25th, we've got 131 customers turned on to the system using turned on to the sewer system that's available to them. We also entered into contracts for the air compressors and standby generators. These are critical pieces of equipment, and they're quite, they're not proprietary, but they're, it's not something our operator can undertake to look after these things. They're specialized pieces of equipment, and they need care. We need somebody to go through them once a year and make sure they're in good shape, and so that we can, so that they're available when we need them. So that's part of the operation and maintenance. It's got nothing to do with the contract and getting these things running. Certainly, they have a 2-year warranty, but that's expired. So we need to continue making sure that these things are running or in top shape so that they run for a long time. This is a bit skewed of a graph, but this is out of our GIS. It kind of just shows the graph of since April 1, the turn-ons from month to month that we've seen. So you can see in the last 3 months of the year, there was a push from residents to get connected, probably to take advantage of the buy-in fee that was in place for last year. This year it's at $3,000, and we've saw quite a bit of a decline once we hit the new year of people connecting, but now we're seeing maybe 2 or 3 a month, and as opposed to the dozen or so a month previous. So I encourage people to connect. It's the environmentally responsible thing to do, and rather than that water going into the ground, it needs to be treated, and so it can be discharged back into the environment a lot cleaner than what is being done now in people's yards. So future items to work on. One thing that kind of gets pushed to the side, it seems, on my desk is asset management, although we've made some strides with getting the policy adopted. And the report goes in, my environment report talks about asset management as well. Probably the biggest thing in the last 3 or 4 years has been on the data collection side. So we're compiling asset data into a registry or spreadsheets. And there's been a big addition of information, added layers and attributes in our GIS system. The latest being with the flood data that came from that study. So we can look at have that information available to, to the staff to be able to get that information out of the system. So a lot of new layers have been added over time here recently with, and that's part of asset management, knowing what assets you have, and then putting an operation or a maintenance plan together and condition assessments to find out what condition they are. We've identified potentially 2 or 3 different asset classes, being buildings, bridges, and roads, that we could do some condition assessments on to be able to build a maintenance program to do some repairs that might be needed, and move forward in making sure the useful life of these things gets extended and they don't fall apart on us. So another thing is to develop a 5-year sort of strategy, and roadmap to kind of lay out what do we want to do this year, next year, and the year after with respect to asset management. So there's something called an asset or a readiness scale that is an attachment in that report. I haven't shared it with you yet, but if you want, I can send it to you, anybody that's interested. But there's competencies in that kind of guides you as, and each municipality is different what their priorities are, but it helps identify items that you want to tackle within asset management. So it's something I wish I could just spend more time on than I have recently, but there's a lot on the go. Moving forward too is looking at this option regarding waste to energy. We've validated that it is technically feasible, and our garbage is a good garbage to be used for the process that was identified to be used. So this would generate heat that would provide a beneficial reuse of energy. And it is the greatest reduction in greenhouse gas emissions. What basically comes out of that is water vapor and out of the stack and some ash. But there's no greenhouse gas emissions from there. They've done studies on this. So it'd be interesting to continue to look at that process and see where it may lead. The other avenue there is the traditional, garbage collection, recycling collection, and compost or organic collection. But MMSM is doing, and I've mentioned it before, that they're involved in a transition plan to go 100% extended producer responsibility. So the municipality would get out of the business of hiring a contractor to pick up roll-off bins or do garbage or recycling collection. Basically, they would inherit what we have today. So right today, we've got 4 roll-off bins. If we transition to them tomorrow, they wouldn't change anything. They would continue to do roll-off bins until they did their own sort of studies and thought, hey, maybe it's better to do curbside collection, but that would then be out of the municipality's control. But right now we're subsidizing recycling, and basically wouldn't have to subsidize it anymore. So right off the hop, there'd be a savings to the RM once we transition. But it's a 2-year plan for them to kind of move towards this 100% funded program through the EPR program or model. So, and this is the traditional it's for them, they're just looking at blue box recycling. The other EPR and program that is ending with the municipality at the end of this year, and I think Councillor Hunt alluded to it in a previous meeting, is that Clean Farms, the collection of the pesticide containers that is being they're dropped off at Earl Grey and Clandeboye. Because those sites were deemed low volume sites, they will be closing by the end of this year. So from that time forward, if you buy a pesticide container from a vendor or supplier, that's where you take it back. You don't take it to our landfill, and then we get the company to pick that up and dispose of it. It goes right back to the supplier of that product, and it has to be cleaned and so on. But So we'll be getting out of the pesticide container business by the end of this year.
Ron, I just want to mention that most farmers now are not using the small cans that were recycled. They're using the larger ones that have a deposit on them, and they're refilling them.
Okay.
So
Right.
this is I think it is a good move, because over the years I've seen a real reduction in the number of chemical cans that are
Right.
deposited there or collected there at
It also
at
it also includes the twine. That's that nylon twine for baling. It also includes that as well, I believe.
Does it also include the grain bags?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Anybody
The
else
other
have any
thing-
comments?
Yeah, the other thing is, Ron, on that comment, like that program now is called EPR, which is Extended Producer Responsibility. And in other provinces, it has, you know, like it's starting with us now with the pesticide containers, but it also had branched into other areas too, you know, as far as packaging for electronics. I know in some other provinces, and as well as you might get into furniture, as in beds and couches and chairs and that kind of stuff. So it's you know, it's expended, and what it is, like I say, is what it says. It's extended producer responsibility. So they're responsible for making it, and they're also responsible for end of life. So rather than passing the expenses on to the municipalities and ultimately the taxpayers. So what other provinces, Ron, have they got? Like I say, Manitoba is the first one now dealing with pesticide containers, but in other provinces they have other extended producer responsibilities. So it's only a matter of time.
Yeah, I would say BC and Quebec are the leaders in that. According to that presentation we took at Swana, they're well ahead. And there's, you know, I think for clean farms, particularly, it's Alberta and Manitoba that are the only ones that aren't doing what the rest of the provinces are doing. So, but I think BC has been in this EPR game for several, if not more than 10 years, and they're proving that it's the way to go. And a lot of provinces now are following that model and transitioning. So for Manitoba, Clean Farms and the MMSM are one of the first two, but it may evolve into, you know, e-waste. So we have there's other companies like EPRA, which does the e-waste, but again, it's a shared responsibility, and also the where municipalities are, you know, having to handle and package that stuff. And the other big one that we moved to is with Product Care, dealing with the paints, the lamps, fluorescent lamps, and the household hazardous waste that, you know, takes a lot of handling. And so that's a shared responsibility right now, and they're the producer responsible organizations that work with us to make sure these materials go to the right place to be recycled and turned back into a commodity that can be reused. So,
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Well, let me continue on, Ron, please.
all right. I think this might be the last slide, but on the wastewater side, so we've talked to Manitoba Water Stewards Board and Services Board and Stantec in regards to a long-term master plan regarding wastewater. While we've been waiting for this ISIP grant funding request, so we requested funding to upgrade our existing lagoon at Petersfield. We haven't received any matching funding for that. So in the meantime, we've kind of explored what other options might there be besides the Petersfield Lagoon. So there's a report that we've received that I need to comment on, and then that'll be coming to council again once the report is finalized, and with a summary of you know what some of those options are. And so That's all I can say on that one.
Anybody have any comments? Don't see any, Ron.
In the meantime, Petersfield Lagoon, we started, like we're moving some valves around or moving the water around in the cells, and we'll be taking some samples to get an idea of whether we can discharge come June 15th. And if there are some limits that we're exceeding in our initial sampling, then we'll have to disinfect or whatever we need to do there to get under the limits and discharge hopefully middle of December is the earliest we can, and do an initial discharge and move that water along as because it's been sitting there in the lagoon all winter. So other than the back T counts, we may have to chlorinate to get those levels down below the limit. And that's all I've got.
Okay. Any questions, thoughts, comments for Ron? I think we got we got a lot on our plate with environmental services, whether it be solid waste, water, or all the different things that we do. Certainly looks good for initiatives started that will be good for next council. Anybody else? Okay, there don't see any comments, questions. So thank you very much, Ron, and great report, and have a great rest of your evening.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, we are down to item 4, reception delegates. We don't have any. We didn't miss anything here, DJ, did we?
No, we got everything.
Okay, there's no reception delegates, no old business, no new business. There is no in-camera items, I believe. So is there any other things that we have to discuss, DJ?
No, just we have the meeting tomorrow with a assessment impact meeting at 5 o'clock. It'll be a Zoom meeting now. Certainly it'll be recorded and put on a YouTube site later. These tax impact reports I think are very interesting. We'll see how much our assessment has grown. They've taken a bit of a break because of COVID. So looking forward to that. So I'll just ask from those at the meeting right now, how many can make it tomorrow at 5?
If it's not raining, I don't think I'm going to be here.
Yeah.
But if it's raining, I will be there. Laurie?
You should be able to make it, but what's the, so that's just going to tell us what our assessment has increased to, and where the increases are, like whether it be in residential, seasonal, farm, commercial, railway. What's the other categories? I think that's about the 5 or 6 categories that there is, right?
Yeah, pretty much, and I guess, over the last few years, we've seen shifts as agricultural land increased in value more. You've seen that take a larger share of our assessment. Cottage properties, I think, didn't do as well last time, depends on your perspective, but they didn't go up as much in value, so their taxes dropped, so it's just a reapportioning of taxes, really, in our case, between residential, agricultural, and the cottage or seasonal properties are also residential, but they tend to, they're assessed slightly. They're not assessed differently, but the sales patterns are different on seasonal residents than on permanent residents.
And what year is that going to be? That's going to be 2020?
Yeah, I think it is 2020, and I think it comes in effect 2023.
Okay. I will, if I can't come to the meeting tomorrow, I will talk to you and see, maybe I can watch it on my phone.
Yeah, usually there's not a lot of questions from council members. It usually is very a passive experience. They have lots of good data. But yeah, a person could watch it, not while they're driving, of course, that would be wrong, even if it's
Auto
a
steer.
Okay.
With that said, we don't have anything else on the agenda. So I will motion to adjourn the meeting at 6:14 p.m. Can I have a mover, please?
So moved.
Seconder? Councilor Prychin seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
That is carried. Thank you very much. Good luck with your surgery, Russ.